What advice would you offer to people that are a little hesitant to talk religion in the workplace, just a little scared to just even bring it up, maybe don't want to display a Bible on their desk for fear of offending someone, or whatever it may be? What advice could you offer any of those folks?
Sensation Nation.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome or welcome back to another episode on Sensation Nation. Today's subject can be a little squishy, a little touchy, but I am going to talk about religion in the workplace. I know that is something that is kind of one of those topics where it's kind of like, I don't know. Should I jump in? Double dutch? I don't know. Should I say something? Should I not? It's something that I've actually struggled with. It's been a very commonly known thing for me that I did not talk race, politics, or religion in the workplace. Those were three subjects I always stayed away from because, number one, I didn't want you to look at me or judge me differently based on my views and my values. Number two, I didn't want to look at anyone and judge them any differently based on their views or values. So my original plan was I don't want to talk about it in the workplace at all. Those views changed a couple of years ago when I had a job that was extremely open. Everyone in there was from various walks of life. We were able to talk about various things. And at the end of the very first conversation I had with that group of folks, I walked away going, I might not have changed their views, or they may not have changed mine, but we all walked away with a better understanding and more respect for each other's views. And once I saw that, I was like, man, that's never happened to me before. So I changed my philosophy a little bit, and I felt like not talking about things like that was not going to help anyone. So I created my topic, religion in the workplace. Now it's kind of like, boom, who do I bring on to talk about this topic? And boom, it dropped on me like a freaking bomb. This gentleman I'm about to bring on, we have a whole lot of history together. Back when I was a young enlisted member and he was just a young airman, he was the one that was kind of being the leader of all the other folks that were in his charge. Lots of two-way mentorship going on, and ironically enough, we stayed in touch. Interesting enough, I was in Africa deployed. He was in Africa deployed. He later became an officer too. I was able to commission him as an officer, and here he is today now serving as a chaplain in the United States military. What a freaking journey. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am super excited to announce Terry Owens. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Henry. Honored to be here, brother. It's been a journey, hasn't it?
It has. It has been an amazing journey. It has been an amazing journey. And you know, the best thing about journeys is the people that you get to encounter, the people you get to have the journeys with. And I think that's absolutely amazing. So with that, I already kind of spilled the beans a little bit. You're now a chaplain. Amazing, crazy journey, crazy in a good way. First of all, wow. Tell everybody very quickly how we really know each other.
And Henry, well, I came in August of 2005. I remember I was in the delayed entry program. I was getting ready to graduate high school, finished up my summer. And I remember I got a call. It was, I don't know, it was Monday or Tuesday, but it was August 30th, 2005. And my recruiter asked me, he said, hey, how soon can you be ready? I got a job for you. It's ground radar maintenance, which was number 2 on my list. And I jokingly said, well, give me to tomorrow. And my recruiter said, well, I need you on the bus in 2 hours if you want this job. And so I had this internal struggle. Not really. I knew ultimately I was coming in the Air Force, and I called my pops, called my dad, and told him I had a job available, and I was working at Texas Roadhouse in a place called the Kettle in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And I knew it was time. So my pops was able to take me up to MEPS. Simultaneously, August 2005, Katrina is going on in different parts of Louisiana, Mississippi. So I enlisted August 31st, 05, completed boot camp in October. And October 31st, 2005, I showed up at Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, where I would spend the next 11 months learning how to do my original craft in the military, ground radar maintenance. And I show up, and none other than is this fit, trim young man, Staff Sergeant Henry Sims. He had this blue rope on, right? Commending, respect, man. He had a voice that would carry for miles, man. He just he was something else. So Henry Sims was my military training leader, one of a few of them, and that's how we met for the first time, Henry. We had some great times there at Keesler, didn't we?
Facts, man. I tell you what. They say people come into your life for a season or a reason, and no matter what we do, no matter what ventures we are on, bottom line is, the people are the constant. It's always consistent, and you just never know. You always have to make sure that you treat people with respect, because there will be an opportunity where you stumble across somebody unexpectedly, like for a CPR class, and you never know. You walk in, and that person that is there teaching that CPR class on a completely different continent, which is absolutely insane. So listen, obviously, you have had a very interesting career, kind of similar to mine. You've taken the scenic route. How did you become an officer? Like, for the people that are listening, maybe there's some enlisted folks that are watching or listening. How did you become an officer?
That's a great question, Henry. And this is going to feed into ultimately why I became a chaplain. So let me Quentin Tarantino this. Let me take you back to April 4th, 1997. This journey of me becoming an officer had a lot to do with my faith, first and foremost. So April 4th, 1997, my brother, my sister, and I, we were all sitting around my grandmother's house, and she'd invited her pastor over to share with us what I now know is that it's called the good news of the gospel, right? She shared to us based on what the Holy Bible has to say on who Jesus was, what he did for us when he was alive, how he lived for us, how he died for us, and how he was resurrected from the grave. And as a 9-year-old, as much as I could comprehend that really resonated with me. So that night I was introduced to Jesus. And I say I was introduced because I would like to say that I've been living and serving and really, truly rooted in my faith since then. But that wasn't the case. There was oftentimes I was weaving in and out. And the good book I follow talks about being lukewarm. I was half in, half out. But ultimately, that seed that was planted in me whenever I was 9 years old stuck with me. So after I enlisted, Henry and I had some time together. I served, it was about 9 or 10 years. And I remember showing up to Honduras. We have a small Air Force detachment that's assigned to Sotocano Air Force Base, along with some Army personnel and Sotocano Army personnel. And I was going through it, Henry. I remember I was working on not my first, but my second divorce. I was rocking a 39-inch waist, sucking in. I barely passed my PT test coming in there, and I was just at rock bottom. And I had to have a come to Jesus with my life, with my career, with my commitment to Christ. Oh, sorry about that.
It's all good. That's all good. When you're trying to speak the good word, somebody will try to get in there and intervene and turn the lights on. Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. We let there be light right now.
Amen. There's gonna be the automatic light. So if you see me doing this from time to time, I'm just trying to, it's all part of it.
That's right.
So down in Honduras, and I'm working through all these issues that I've had, my weight gain, my failed marriages, where I'm truly at in life, my career that's kind of stagnated a little bit, missed. I was already an NCO, but my promotion was kind of slowing, from senior airman below the zone to promoting early to E4 to E5, and now it was kind of slowing. And so as I'm walking through this, and I remember going into the base chapel, when I had someone come up to me, and I like to call it, they did for me, they read my mail, and they came to me, and without I sort of them being a CIA agent came up and just said, Terry, you're dealing with this, and it was all true. And it was not like, it was the days of MySpace before Facebook, where you can really, get to know people at that kind of level. But this brother, I'll never forget what he said to me. And it was at that time in my spiritual journey, I began to kind of repent and just let go of everything that was going on. And I had an honest conversation with God. I said, hey, if you will if you will still use me, I know I've done a lot of things messed up, but I will work for you. And so I started putting in the work. And it was in 2013 that I really put hands to the plow and I started working on my bachelor's degree. And I had it done in about 2.5 years from the time I started. And so once I got to 2015, I was finishing my bachelor's degree. I was fortunate enough to lose a bunch of weight, meet an amazing woman named Cassandra that I'm now married to. And we just hit 7 years back in
Nice.
November.
Nice.
Lots of in and out in that as I kind of come out, as I started to rebound from that period of my life. I realized I had this bachelor's degree, and typically in the Air Force and other branches as well, if you have a degree, you have an invitation to apply to become an officer. That's one of the minimum requirements. And I was like, you know what? I know that God called me to work for him, but in the interim, let me throw my name in the hat for this officer thing. Because it was then I recognized as I've had all these things happen, I have a chance to make an impact. And to me, I had this mentality. If I become an officer, I can transition from being a pebble to a boulder, right? You throw a pebble in the lake, it just makes a couple ripples, right? You can make an impact. You truly can. You got to throw that pebble hard. But as an officer, we're boulders. Throw yourself into the mix. And when that boulder hits, it doesn't just ripple, brother. It makes waves. And that was kind of my heart at the time as I was kind of wrestling with my calling all my life. So I threw my name in the hat, and you and I started connecting again at that time. I remember you sent me your package, Henry, and you were selected at a time when when that faucet was proverbial and drip, and there wasn't a lot of officers coming in. And I got some advice from you and me and two other guys in Combat Com. I was stationed at Ranger Center at the time. We all applied together. We found out I was actually in Djibouti for the second time. Whenever I got the phone call, Tech Sergeant Terry Owens, you've been selected to become a United States officer, aircraft maintenance officer. And, that's where it started. And then you and I met at officer training school in March of 2017. I raised my right hand and you swore me in as a United States officer.
Man, those are good memories, man. That just all makes me feel all good inside. It's probably because I'm getting old, my feelings come back. And so I already know you've always been a very godly man who has always made sure that you did your absolute best to walk the fine and narrow path through the narrow gate, and to also ensure that those that you came in contact with did the same. So ultimately, dream come true, right? Became an officer, not easy, not something that any and everybody can do. And so almost to the point where it's like, hey, that's the cream on the freaking cake right there, right? But not only did you become an officer and you worked really hard and you did well as a maintenance officer, then you add another layer of frosting on the cake and you get accepted to be a chaplain. What was that like?
I was, again, like you said, a dream come true. And I say more than anything, a calling come true. So just to Tarantino it back a little bit. So whenever I was introduced to Jesus, at age 9, about age 10, I remember I was sitting on the front row seat of Blue Creek Baptist Church. And if you grew up in the Baptist community, you understand the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And we feel in from the back, right? That's where we get back row Baptists. That's where we get that slogan. But it was a Sunday night. I was sitting up front. My Pastor Terry Henson was speaking, and I felt like I really felt this resonating voice within me saying, "You're going to do that for me one day."
Wow.
And as a 10-year-old Henry, you can't really appreciate that. But that again, right? The introduction to Jesus and the calling on my life, that was irrevocable. That never went away. And so after I commissioned, I had a continue to have honest conversations with God. I said, hey, again, I've done a lot to disqualify myself, but I recognize that God calls. I'm sorry, He qualifies the called. He doesn't call the qualified. So I began to start doing. I started seminary while I was at Kirtland Air Force Base as a maintenance officer, and that was definitely a trying time. My wife and I were expanding our family. We've got a newborn at home. I'm working through seminary, and as I finished up my time at Kirtland Air Force Base, I remember I was at a men's conference, and it was around this time 3 years ago, and I was at this men's conference, and excuse me. And I remember towards the end of that conference, there was an illustration made, right? And in the Christian faith, there's this mantra, there's this constant theme about becoming a living sacrifice, right? Choosing to, in the military, we call it service before self, but truly to put your wants, your desires outside of yourself to do what you were called to do. And I felt like it was at that moment I was reaffirmed my calling to step out into full-time ministry. And I did what every wise man should do that's married. I went straight home and I talked to my wife about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Before you just sign up for something. And I came home. My wife was in Clovis, New Mexico at the time. We were getting ready to go into church, and I told her about the affirmation of the calling. And without a doubt, she said, let's do it. And from there, Henry, the doors flew open. COVID kicked off at the same time. I finished my degree in seminary, and some pastors that we had never met. We were, again, these connections that we talk about, a friend of a friend of a friend connected us.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this retired Sergeant Major Wade Miller was pastoring in England. And guess where I just got orders to, brother?
Oh, gosh. Wow.
RAF Mildenhall in England. And he called me up and said, Terry, retired Sergeant Major, I'm a bottom line up front kind of guy. I want you to take over as the pastor for me here at Solid Rock Christian Center in England. So white as a sheep, I told Cassandra, she was on board. But that door flew open. We transitioned over to England in 2020. My wife and I began to take over co-pastoring and eventually becoming the lead pastors of this organization, Solid Rock, and we're over there getting the practical experience. And for those, we could talk about a little bit the nuts and bolts of what it takes to become a chaplain. I was getting my postgraduate ministry experience. So by time last April came around, I felt like, God's knocking on my door. Hey, come work for me full time again as a chaplain. I applied in April, had my interview in May. I got the call on June the 5th while I was on the tarmac leaving a conference in Germany saying, congratulations, you've been selected to become a chaplain. July, I received orders, and September 27th, I resigned my commission as a maintenance officer. And September 28th of last year, I showed up at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming as a Air Force chaplain.
You know what I love so much about your Quentin Tarantino version of your story is the fact that you can articulate and recall the dates, the times, the moments so easily of some of the most important and key moments in your life. And I absolutely love that. And I feel that that's a trait that you probably also have to carry on with you as a chaplain in your current position. Because the way that things are today, the current times that we live in, I would imagine there is no shortage of people for you to actually have a positive impact on. I would imagine your job is busy. I would imagine the interactions that you have with people are ample. And so my question is kind of a two-part question. I look at you. You talked earlier about, you being at your worst when it comes to your fitness level, when you were at your rock bottom, so on and so forth. And, just through the screen, I see your biceps now. You look fit. You're like a young Stephen Furtick. You're just kind of out there doing your thing. Or whatnot. You're out there doing your thing. And so I bring all that up to say, number one, what is the day in the life of a chaplain? But number two, how do you, right? Because a lot of times people don't really necessarily get to pray. Well, I don't say they don't get to, but you don't hear about it very much. You don't hear about people praying for the people that do all the praying. Like, how do you take care of yourself and not necessarily remember every single negative thing that someone has brought to you? How do you sleep at night? And what's your day in the life as a chaplain?
That's a loaded question, Henry, but I'll see if I can tackle it. So to answer the question, there's the first part. There is no average day for a chaplain. I'll tell you what, our primary purpose of chaplains is to be in the trenches. I think about Band of Brothers, right? If you've ever watched that film series, the epitome of the military chaplain is that Catholic priest, right? Bullets are flying and he is there with his people in the trenches, and he's going around. A lot of folks have deceased, but he is there with them. So our job as military chaplains is first and foremost to be there with the people and to be there with them in the worst of times. So my primary responsibility, if someone comes in and they've got a need that they need to express, what crisis or emergency situation, we drop everything, and that becomes the most important thing. To be with in the Air Force, but throughout the military, to be with the military member or the family members in the worst time. But we do other things. Like I said, we go out with the unit. We go be present. Here, that looks like I'm responsible for the mission support group and the medical group. So I'm out there, whatever they're doing. For example, the dirt boys who are out shoveling snow. I'll go do ride-alongs with those guys. We call them the MAFO guys, the guys that make the food out at the missile sites, going out with those guys. The medical group just walking around the clinics and checking on folks. It's being present. Right? Because as you know, Henry, as a leader, one of the most potent tools that we have is leadership by walking around. And the more present you are, the more apt people are willing to be personal and to share with you what's going on in their lives. So those are kind of the primary responsibilities. We do other things. You typically, if you've been in the military long, you think of your military chaplains. They're the ones doing the invocations and retirements. They're the schools that we have. They're doing the invocations at those things. And then and I talk about, I'm licensed to do two things, marry and bury. I prefer to do the first, but I'm also required to do the last. So grave, whether it's great experience in his life, like the birth of a child, whether it's a marriage, walking through people to get to that moment, or whether it's a funeral, giving an invocation or providing that service, that's what we do, and everything in between. Wow. And I like to say I'm a pastor for some, but a chaplain for all. Right. So one of the other things that we do is help people navigate through religious accommodations. So, for example, one of the things that I've done most here is interview people of the Norse pagan faith. And although it's not my faith, one of the things I do is work with them to gauge their sincerely held belief. And if they're looking for a beard, or if they're the Jewish faith, they're looking to wear a yarmulke that's not automatically authorized in uniform, or any other thing that would help a person to express their faith. I help them through that process to get to a point where they can more actively profess their faith. Wow. And of course, the other things, being a Protestant chaplain, you see the cross on my chest. So preaching on Sundays at the chapel, providing communion and those kind of sacraments within the Protestant faith. Those are the things. But again, the most important thing is the airmen and their family. And I'm here to walk with them when they need it.
Not an easy job. I mean, while you were talking, I just literally just in my brain just thought of the 3 B's. It's such a huge spectrum. You got the babies, you got the brides, you got the burials, and neither of those things are the same. And it's like one day you could be hot, one day you're cold, one day it's celebratory, one day it's sad, and that's a lot, right? And I would imagine that, it takes a lot of resilience for you as a chaplain to be able to manage all of those things, definitely have the right person for the job. And I imagine that is something that you have to kind of work through. How has being a chaplain made you as a person better? How has it made you better?
Yeah, I'll answer that question first, but I want to address your other one, Henry. Being a chaplain absolutely has made me better, but I'll give an example specifically about how I'm able to unwind and to untangle that rope at the end of the day. Before I went on leave, I'll just say in broad sense, because when you come to a chaplain, it's 100% confidentiality. So Henry, if you said you wanted to off your wife, not on live television, right, but one-on-one, I can't tell her. I can't tell anyone. Now, I might give her a call and say, hey, you may want to go stay with your mom for a little bit. You may want to go take a vacation. But anything you share with the chaplain is confidential. But in broad terms, I had a situation. I had the happiest and the saddest moments in the same spectrum in the same day. I had someone come and share that they wanted to engage in life with Christ. So I got to pray with them to receive Christ and to get them on that journey of resiliency and walking in their faith. And in the same day, I had someone come in, and a close friend had lost a teenager to suicide. And so you're walking with people, and it's just changing gears in the middle of the day, and it's heartbreaking. it's infuriating and angry. And that's a combo for another time, how I feel about those sorts of things, suicide, depression, and anxiety. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you can't. I'm not a robot, and I'm not God, so I can't just turn the switch off. But before I go home, I always try to hit my knees and pray and give it to God. That's step one, right? And I live on base, so I only have about a 5-minute drive home. But I'll message my wife and tell her, I need some time when we get home. And of course, I'll never share names or specifics of the situations, but I'll go to my wife. She is my chaplain, if you will, and I would encourage anyone in a healthcare kind of profession or any of a caregiver profession, you got to find someone that you can download to, because otherwise, I equate it like this. You have a bucket of crap that, you continually, whether it's yourself or other people, pour into, and eventually that's going to overflow. And that's going to manifest in the right end of the spectrum of taking your own life, or it's going to manifest that you need other ways to take care of that, like drinking, alcohol, drugs, that kind of thing. And man, Henry, we have to find ways to skim off the top to empty that. And my wife is that for me, and we're able to pray about situations, and she's able to be there for me. And that's one of the ways, Henry, and that leads right into how is Chaplain maybe a better person. This has definitely brought me and my wife even closer together than I could have imagined. All that baggage that I brought into our marriage, 7 years ago, we've been working and navigating through that. But I truly feel like being a chaplain has made me a better communicator. It's made me more empathetic. It makes me more present. When people walk in my office, but before I was, hey, I'm that young guy, Henry. I don't mind, just doing this. Now, put the phone down. And hey, if anybody's married, guys, put the phone down, put it on silent, put it away, and I'm able to be present for that 1 to 3 hours, however long I'm with somebody. I'm able to be more present with my children and my wife because of that. And it just forces me, as I know you are, Henry, just to be a lifelong learner of specific things that make yourself better, and in turn you can share with others to make them better.
Wow. Listen, I just feel better already just from listening to your talk, man. So I'm telling you right now, this has been a positive impact on me. So I'm hoping that it's a positive impact on everybody else as well. So speaking of everybody else, religion in the workplace, there may be some leaders, potential leaders, future leaders, current, whatever it may be, even followers, peers, superiors, subordinates, whatever title you want to put on it. What advice would you offer to people that are a little hesitant to talk religion in the workplace, just a little scared to just even bring it up, maybe don't want to display a Bible on their desk for fear of offending someone, or whatever it may be? What advice could you offer any of those folks?
Man, Henry, if you remember when we went through first aid training, if you put yourself back in that environment from 5-6 years ago, remember, we have typically 3 responses, carnally, naturally, right, when we come upon a situation: fight, flight, or freeze, right? And my encourament to all your listeners today, when it comes to religion in the workplace and politics as well, in race, is get rid of the flight and the freeze, right? These are topics that are near and dear to all of us. And if we want deep-rooted relationships, if we want to fight in the sense that we run towards the storm, right? If we want to be involved in people's lives, we have to be willing to engage in these conversations. We absolutely have to, right? So my encouragement, first and foremost, is to have the conversation. Is to be willing to share. And so being a Christian and a chaplain, a lot of people look at, well, you can't proselytize, but you're a Christian, so you're supposed to share your faith. So how do you do both? And I'll tell all your listeners this: the way in which I do this in every single conversation, whether it's a counseling, whether it's someone I'm out and about in town, always start. You extend the proverbial olive branch. If I want to have a conversation about religion, first and foremost, let there be light.
Let there be light.
Amen. That'll preach. Ask this question, or something to the effect. In the military context, I encourage folks to ask this question: hey, what does your spiritual pillar of resiliency look like? And just listen. Or, hey, do you have any faith? Did you grow up going to church? And just listen to people's story. Always invite them first. Always what they have to say, because you never know what you're going to learn. I've learned so much about the Muslim faith, about the Norse pagan faith. I didn't know much about that at all until I got here. Catholicism, I've been really humbled by some Catholic priests that really love Jesus, and and just all other spectrum, Eastern Orthodox, even atheism, why they've come to that realization decision. After they have shared what they want to share, then ask a follow-up question. Hey, can I share with you what my spiritual pillar looks like?
Oh, wow.
Can I
Okay.
share with you what keeps me up, what keeps me going, what my resiliency looks like? All right, Simon Sinek, great book, Start With Why, one of my favorites of all time, talks about going back to that why. And you can bring your why
Mm,
legally and appropriately in a conversation when you invite them to share first. And
mm.
if the answer is no, the answer is no. But I tell you, 98% of the time that I ask the question, someone's willing to share. And after they share, they're willing to allow you to share in return. So we
Wow.
can't shy away from that why. We can't shy away, because at the end of the day, Henry, our faith, whether you're atheist, agnostic, Christian, Muslim, it's a part of your identity.
Mm,
For me, it is my entire identity, who I am. But regardless, whether it's 1% or 100%, it is a part of who you are. And we shouldn't have to keep that in.
right.
We should desire to share that, right? That should be something that we want to share. But it's about doing it with mutual
Mm,
respect,
mm.
right? We start talking about pulled pork versus brisket, right? I want to hear your thoughts about brisket. Being a North Carolina guy, I like the pulled pork with
Yep.
the
Yep.
little
Yep.
vinegar on it. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
But we can walk away from that conversation, and I can maybe sample a little bit and say, you know what, I'm still going to stick with pulled pork. And
Right.
Henry, you may go back to that brisket, and that's okay. I'll pray for you, but but at the end of the day, we have to be willing to share the things that make us us, and we
Right.
have to go into it with a mindset and the mantra that even if my mind's not going to be changed, I'm deeply rooted in this. I'm still going to listen. And I'm going to understand. And Henry and I, or whomever you're talking to, are going to be a little bit closer now, and we know how to relate to each other, and we know what intrinsically motivate one another. So to all your listeners, Henry, just do it. JDI, just do it.
Just do it. Listen,
Talk about it
I'm
with
about to take
mutual
this
respect.
mic right here and just like drop it. Like I'm just like that's that. I mean, what more is there to be said? You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna say first of all, thank you, because mentorship goes two ways, right? I know you've highlighted a couple things, but just being a part of your journey, watching you as a young airman wearing a rope and learning how to literally be an airman in the Air Force, to literally being present when you find out that you're commissioning, and then this going down to commission you as an officer, and later promoting you to captain virtually while you were overseas. Just to be honestly a fan on the sideline, watching all of those great things happen for you, and I know that that it's not necessarily for your good per se, but it is for you to actually be a positive impact on others, including folks like myself. So I really want to thank you for sharing your story. I think this is going to help some people. But before I let you go, I have a quick 10 round what do you prefer question session here for you.
Okay.
So it's
All
going to be
right.
real fast. Tell me what you think, your preference. So, number one, when it comes to pizza, do you prefer fruit or no fruit?
No fruit. Is that
No.
a question?
I've heard so many varying opinions. I just
Yep.
want to make sure. This next one, Mr. North Carolina, basketball greatness, Michael Jordan or LeBron?
I'm going to walk away from that. Michael Jordan. Come on, brother. Give me a
Oh,
hard
this
one.
is awesome. This is awesome. When it comes to books, audio or paperback?
Audio.
Okay. I think I already answered this question earlier in the podcast, but I know you like to stay physically fit. Do you prefer arm day, or are you like a leg day kind of guy?
Arm day. You see the results right away. I'm a
That's
see the
right.
fruit kind of guy.
The swole chaplain. He was walking around. The chaplain is walking around all swole. You got to have those biceps. You know what I mean? All right, listen. This is another good one for you. It's kind of a north south thing. Do you prefer tea, sweet or unsweet?
Growing up, it was sweet, but as I've grown and the muffin top tends to push out,
You defected?
unsweet, unsweet. Yeah,
Oh man. Oh man.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Communication. You like to communicate. You're obviously a very great communicator. Would you prefer texting, or do you prefer, hey, pick up the phone and give me a call?
I prefer face to face, but between the two, phone call.
Gotcha. Okay. Number 7, travel. You want to hop on somebody's plane, take a flight, or do you prefer the peace and serenity of a road trip?
Flight cuts the time in a quarter and a half, especially with 3 kids and one more on the way. Let's just get there, brother.
Boom. I like it. Attire. I see that you're wearing a polo. I'm wearing a t-shirt. What's your preference? T-shirt or polo?
Usually a t-shirt.
Okay. Okay. All right. Number 9, and you can't say yourself. Hero, Superman or Iron Man?
Iron Man. He's more down to earth.
Okay. More humble. Okay. Gotcha. And then last but not least, when it comes to music, do you prefer digital forms of music or would you prefer vinyl?
Digital.
Digital.
So, yeah. Hey, brother, can I share one more thing?
Absolutely.
There's something that's just resonating me. I came to this a while ago, and so whether it's your listeners, wherever they're at, pursuing their faith, pursuing their career goals, anything like that, I came up with this mantra a while ago, and it goes like this: We have time, money, and energy for the things that are important to us. Everything else just isn't a priority.
Mm,
So you just need to be man or woman enough to admit what is a priority and what isn't.
mm, mm. Man, listen, knowledge bombs. I'm feeling the shrapnel from all these knowledge bombs. I love it, and so what's going to happen with me is I know what I will be doing is I will replay this, right? When I need that time of some words of wisdom, some knowledge from an experienced young man like yourself who has walked the walk and talked the talk. So I appreciate you leaving that last bit of nugget with the listeners and the viewers. So Terry, it's been an amazing journey watching you. It's been an amazing opportunity to have you on this podcast of Sensation Nation. If you need or desire to do so, do you have any methods or means for folks to reach out to you for future advice on anything whatsoever? What's the best way for folks to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those in the military, if you look me up on the global, I'm the only Captain Chaplain Terry Owens, terry.owens.2 at us.af.mil. If you want to connect on Facebook, if you look up me and my wife, Terry Cassandra Owens, 3 words, Cassandra with just 1 S, because she's special. All she needed was my wife and I also have a marriage platform attached to that, a Facebook page called Elite Marriages. That's one of the mantles of my ministries. Since I've had 2 failed marriages, I want to speak life into marriages. So that's a way that you can connect at Elite Marriages on Facebook, or my personal email if you want to connect offline with something else, T Owens, Owens 005 at iCloud.com. Those are the best ways to reach me.
You're the man. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here. The man, the myth himself. I hope that you gained something from this today. We appreciate you for sitting in with us. Until next time, I'm out.